John Gill, Haggai chapter 1, verse 1. Scripture quote, "In the second year of Darius the king," unquote, that is, of Persia, he is spoken of as if he was the only king in the world, and indeed he was then greatest king in it, and therefore is emphatically called the king. This was not Darius the Mede, as Genebrand, Genebrard, who was contemporary with Cyprus, the partner in the kingdom, nor Darius Nothus, that's Nothus, as Scaliger, it's Scaliger, and those that follow him, since the second year of this Darius was, according to Cocceius, that's Cocceius, who follows this opinion, 138 years after the first edict of Cyrus, and so Zerubbabel and Joshua must exercise their office, the one of governor, the other of high priest, such a term of years and more, which is not credible. And some of the Jews in captivity must have lived upwards of 200 years, even those who saw the temple in its first glory before the captivity, and now behold it in Haggai's time in a very different condition. Haggai 2:3. It seems therefore more probable, according to Josephus and others, that this was Darius Hystaspes, that's Hystaspis, who was chosen king by the nobles of Persia upon his horses 9 first, as Herodias relates, in the second year of his reign, was about 17 or 18 years after the proclamation of Cyprus, during whose reign he being much engaged in affairs abroad, in the reign of his successor Cambyses, that's Cambys, yes. The enemies of the Jews, encouraged by the latter, greatly obstructed the building of the temple and discouraged them from going on with it. But when this king came to the throne, things took another turn, being favored by him, for Josephus relates that, when a private person, he vowed, if ever he become king, whatever of the holy vessels were in Babylon, he would send them to the temple at Jerusalem. And upon solicitations made to him, the Jews were encouraged to go on with the building of it. Scripture quote, "In the 6th month," unquote, the month Elul, that's Elul, answering to part of August and part of September, which was the 6th, reckoning from the month Nisan, that's Nisan. Scripture quote, "In the first day of the month," unquote, which was the feast of the new moon. Scripture quote, "came the word of the Lord by Haggai the prophet," unquote, or by the hand of Haggai. By his means he was the instrument by whom the Lord delivered his word. The word was not the prophet's, but the Lord's. This is observed to give weight and authority to it. Scripture quote, "Unto Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel," that's Shealtiel, unquote, the same who is called Shealtiel, that's Salathiel, Matthew 1:12. According to Kimchi and Ben Melech, he was the grandson of Shealtiel. Through rather Shealtiel seems to be his uncle, he being the son of Pedaiah, his brother. 1 Chronicles 3:17. However, he was his heir and successor in the government, and so called his son. See Gill and Matthew 1:12. Scripture quote, "Governor of Judah," unquote, not king, for the country was under the dominion of the king of Persia, and Zerubbabel was a deputy governor under him. So the Apocrypha Ezra calls him governor of Judah. And also he commanded the Sisines, that's Sisines, the governor of Syria and Phoenicia, and Satrabuzanes, and their companions, and those which were appointed rulers in Syria and Phoenicia. Phenice, that's Phenice. Should be careful not to meddle with the place, but suffer Zerubbabel the servant of the Lord and the governor of Judah, and the elders of the Jews to build the house of the Lord in that place. 1 Ezra 6:27. And according to Josephus, he was made governor of the captive Jews when in Babylon, being in great favor with the king of Babylon, and with 2 more were his bodyguards, and he was continued governor of the Persians when the Jews returned to their land. Scripture quote, and to Joshua the son of Josedech, that's Josedech, the high priest, unquote, who was called Jeshua, that's Jeshua, and his father Jozadak, Ezra 3:2. His father was carried captive by Nebuchadnezzar. Now, to these 2 principal persons in the commonwealth of Judah was the word of the Lord sent by the prophet, the one having the chief power in civil things, and the other in things ecclesiastical, and both had an influence upon the people, but very probably were dilatory in the work of the building of the temple, and therefore have a message sent to them to stir them up to service. End of Haggai 1:1.